In this video, we're going to work around with filters where we can filter students or scores based on their data here, and we can reset it as well. But what we could do as well is, let's say we want to go down more. Let's say only show everything with a score of 60 and above. And if you click down the filter, you can see here now we get this. It will show you 4 specific values here. We can even go down. Let's go to 30. Filter again. You can see here now we get everything, and let's reset it all. And now we get, of course, everyone, including the score 0. So let's start to explore how to do this. In this video, we're going to focus on one of the viewers' questions, which is how to show dynamic data based on value conditions in Chartjs. And this could be one condition or multiple. However, we will focus on a single condition here, which came from one of my other videos. So this question came from one of my other videos about how to change horizontal bar chart to a vertical bar chart based on the screen size in Chartjs, which is absolutely interesting to see as well. And if we scroll down here, you can see this question came from Chartjs Guard, a special thank you to Chartjs for asking this specific question. And this is what Chartjs asked. Sir, how can I create chart that shows dynamic value in a graph, like if students have 90% mark, then show in a graph with tooltip? Alright, so basically what we want to do is show values based on a certain condition. So how do we start? Well, first of all, let's get the default code here. Make sure you go to chartjs3.com, getting started. For some reason, my Google Chrome gives this error. However, Firefox, it works fine. So anyway, what we're going to do here is we just need this default code in here. We're going to copy this code, and then we're going to paste that in here. Once we paste that in here, and if you want, by the way, to understand what this code does, watch this video here that explains it all. So what we're going to do next, or for me at least, I'm going to cut out this, paste it in there. Alright, the next thing we're going to do here, save this, refresh, and now we have our bar chart. So once we have a bar chart, what we want to do now is start to have some student data here. So probably the case would be there's a student there, you have the student name, and you have the student value. So those things I'm going to put in here. In our case, I assume you will have them in 2 separate arrays. So we're going to create here a quick array constant, and let's call this the student name array. And this one here is basically going to replace the labels here. So let's give it here some quick values. Let's say the first one is Nick, comma, and then we have here another one. Let's call it Santiago, comma, and then we have here one is called James, comma, Lily, comma, David, comma, Raj. Oh, make sure you have it in the string, of course, Raj. And we need another one. Well, let's say here, Sandra. Alright, so we have a few different ones here. So what we're going to do next is another constant, and this constant will match basically the student score. So we're going to say your student score equals, and this is of course a integer number. So let's say for Nick we have a 100% score, Santiago have a 30% score, James 30, Lily 60, David 90, Raj, let's say 100 again, and Sandra 90. Alright, so we have these scores here. Now we can start to match them here. So what I'm going to do here, the student name, put in there, and of course the score, put in there. What I want to do here at least is to remove these colors here, or at least we don't need to have random colors, we just have only one single color here. There we are. Weekly sales, let's change this to score, or student score. Student score. Alright, so we have this now. Now I have the student score, there we are, we have all of those. So we need to filter out certain items. So what we're going to do here is we're going to create some buttons. Let's put in here. Eventually I will put in 3 items what I want to do. I have an input. No, that is not what I wanted, sorry. Let's undo that one. Input, tag. Alright, so this will be a number. And name, well, it can be anything. Right now I will not focus on this. Let's say your value by default is 90. But however, we're not going to work on this yet. Next we have the button. And with the button, we can say here, this will be triggered by a class on click. Or sorry, by a function on click. So on click, and then we can say here, filter students. And then in here, let's say here, a default is 90% students. Another one that we have to work on later on as well is a reset. let's say reset all, reset students. So 90%, or this could be filter 90%. Alright, and this will be eventually the reset students. So I will not work on this yet. Let's go on the filter, because this is the most complicated one in here. So we have this here, of course, this here doesn't work yet. So let's start to grab this filter student. Let me say a function. I'm going to trigger this here. So the moment we trigger this here, what do we want to do? Well, basically this. We want to loop through these values again. Specifically this one here, because our comparison will be based on the score. If the score is below X amount, we need to remove that item from the array. However, we will not remove the item from this array, and the reason why, if we're going to modify this array here, you have a problem if we would reset it, because the reset has been we'll use again this modified array. So we're not allowed to modify this one. So what we're going to do is we're going to just loop through certain values and push it into a new array. Very important. Do not modify your original array, or else you cannot work anymore with that value. So what we're going to do here is we're going to create a constant, and let's call this our student name array. I'm just going to make that one. This is our new array equals empty. Basically, it's an empty array that we're going to work on afterwards. So we have, besides the student name, we have the student score array. So we have two items, or student grade is maybe a more appropriate name. Student's grade, student score, one or the other, doesn't matter. So what we're going to do here, and I'm just going to put in some extra enters so we have some more space. In here, we're going to work now with our constant, which is the filtering here. Oh, sorry, we don't need that one, sorry. What we're going to do here is the following. We're going to grab this array, which is the student score array. And we're going to use the array.map functionality to loop through that, and then we want to do something. And basically the map option, you can control going through a certain item. It's very similar to a for loop, although with the map it is more powerful and more comprehensive. You can do far more things. You can split them out, and this has become very important, because with the for loop you cannot do that, but with this one you can. So I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about here. So we have this student score array, and then what I want here is this score will be equal to items. So we're going to break them down into three specific items: the score or the grade. We can just say grades, maybe it's just more appropriate, and you know that this is a different item, that eventually this grade will be the individual grade here. So I'm going to show you later on. Next we will have here as well the index, and this is really useful because now you have the index. With the for loop you don't have that index, and then you have to do all kind of items. So this one is easier. And then of course we can have the array, which is the total array. However, what we're going to do here is, this is a function, so we need to make sure that we have an arrow operator here, indicating that this is a function. And then what we want to do here is the following. We create an if statement, and this if statement will say very simply, if this grade equals to a, or is 90 or higher, at that moment show or push it in here. So to make sure you understand this, I want to console log the grade here. We're going to do the console log of the grade, but also the console log of the index, because you will understand why this becomes important. Save this. If I refresh here, oh, let's see what's going on. Alright, we have an error. Malformed arrow parameter. Alright, so let's see what's going on here. Alright, so what is the issue here? Sorry about this. You can see here, this parentheses here is not allowed. We need to move that one here, so that one is fine, but then of course here we should have the parentheses. We would close this here. If I save this now, we should have now the expected item. Alright, so if I now press on filter, nothing happens yet, but you can see here behind the scene it understands that array, it knows the array already. Array 0, 1, 2, etc, etc. Why is this useful? Because now we have this value we can now start to use as well for the names. Because you can see here 0, 100 score is Nick, which equals to array element, or which is array index 0, or the first element. This one here, the second element, or index number 1, because remember arrays are 0-based counting, especially in JavaScript. Yeah, this is Santiago, and Santiago had a score of 30, which is correct. Alright, so then we had another one here. Let's see here, this one here, number 30 again, and it's number 2, that's James. And then Lily is number 3, or array index number 3, and has a score of 60. Alright, so you can see these are nicely matched now, so we can use this nicely. What we're going to do here basically is we're going to push it in this specific array. So we're going to say here dot push, so this array is empty, and all what we want to do here in the grade array, we're going to put in here the grade. Very straightforward. For the name array, what we're going to do here is slightly different. So we have here dot push, and what are we going to grab is basically the student array here, which is the student name. But this student name will be array index. So you can see here the index will be this. Remember, the map will only loop through this student score array, which was the score here. However, these two are so interconnected with each other, with the index value, we can now start to grab the right ones. So this is very useful with a map array. So once we did that, we're basically done here. So here, let's put a semicolon here. Then we are done here. Next, what we can do here is, well, let's check. What we need to do here now is, let's go console.log. Just to show these arrays here, let's grab this new array that we have and see if we have the matching arrays being shown here. The student grade and the student name array. Let's put these two here. Save that, refresh, click on filter, and now you can see here, what do we have? We have this pushed. Oh, alright. We don't have anything yet, and I realize why we don't have anything. Do you figure it out? Of course, there's no if statement. So there's no if statement, but you can see we grab all of those, and these two are just interconnected right now. So they're still same, but now we need to do an if statement. So we say if. And what I really want to do here, because remember we have the grade here. Then we say if the grade, which is this one here, is larger or equal to the score of 90. That was the request. If that is the case, what we want to do then is to grab this item here and put it in there. So I'm going to give it a indentation here. Alright, so once we do this, then it will start to filter with the if statement. If I save this now and refresh and click on this, you can see here now we only get 190, 190, which is correct because we had only 4 items, which is Nick, David, Raj, and Sandra, which had the score of 90 or above. So the others are not. So Santiago is removed, James is removed, and Lily has been removed. And the other 4 are being maintained. Alright, so this is perfect, and this is exactly what we want. So the next thing what I want to do here now is the following. We're going to update the chart. So how do we update the chart? It's here. We go from my chart, we go to config, and basically what I want to update specifically is the label here, and of course our student score. Sorry, not this label, sorry, the label here. Student name, or labels, which equals the student name, and the data, which equals the student score. So we say here, how do we do this? We go from my chart dot, let's search here my chart, then we have config, go for the configuration dot. In config we go to data, and from data it will jump here. Well, let me just go to data dot, and then from data, we are in the data now, we want to adjust the labels first. So that's the student name. So we're going to grab the labels dot, then we say equal to, and then we're going to grab here the student name array. The next one, of course, will be very close to this, but except that we need to change here something. From the data, we don't want to go anymore to the label, or labels, sorry. What we want to do here is we want to go to data set. Data set here, this is an array, which would mean this is array 0, or index 0. So we say here, data set 0 dot, and then we go here to the data here, and it equals to what exactly is the grade array. Semicolon here. So once we have this, then we say here my chart dot update, and then we update, of course, our chart here. So once we save this, refresh here, let's filter this. There we are. So now we have this filtered nicely. And if we reset, of course, nothing works here. And if we do this, of course, nothing works. So let's start to play around a bit more, because right now only on this filter works, but now let's reset the filter. So how do we reset the filter? Well, first of all, let's create a new function, or we already have the new function here, unclick reset students. So we say here function reset students, And all what we can do here is basically the following. We could do here, let's grab these two here. That's basically what we need, or more specifically, these three here. I'm going to copy all of these. We have this here, proper indentation, and then we say here, this will be, of course, our original array, which is student name on the student name here, alright, and then we have the other one is the student score. So this is the reason why we don't want to modify the original array, or else we are not able to reset. So if I save this now, refresh, filter, reset, filter, reset. Alright, so there we are. Now we have this. Last thing what I want to do here is I want to play around with this, that we can adjust these up and down, and when this is adjusted, we click here, and then it will filter whatever we have here, this condition. To do this, we're going to work here on this input here, and this input will have a certain value. What I want to do here at least is to give it a step. We don't need to have like a single step, but what I want to do is I want to have an increment of 10. Default is 90. But if I save this now and refresh, you can see here now if I go up or down, you see it will go increment with 10% at a time. We can do a minimum of 0. It should not be lower than 0. Maybe here min equals 0. Alright, and then max might be as well. Let's do a max because 100% is the total max. If I save that, refresh here, 100, and then we say here 0. Alright, so now let's filter, or let's start to combine these together. So I'm going to remove this filter here for now. Filter percentage. I'll just say percentage. We can do here some fancy stuff to grab that value in here, but for now I will not spend too much time on the design. We have only this here, and what I want to do here is the following. I'm going to give this an ID. Let's say this is the filter score. This is the ID name, and this is very important because we want to grab this specific value in here of this specific ID. So we go in here, and all what we need to do here is the following. Let's do here console, sorry, not even console log. I'm going to give it a constant, which I call filter score, and I'll say here this equals document. That's the one I need, of course. Get element by ID, and what I'm really doing here, go search in the HTML document and get the element by ID, and our ID name is the filter score. So once we have this here, now we do here console log. And then what I will need here eventually is this dot value. So if I do this now and save this, you can see here now, select, you can see here this is the 90, alright. If I go here down, this should be 80. Oh, I guess we have too many console logs that I want to just remove some of these console logs just for the sake of it, so it's easy to view. Filter, alright, so now you can see here, but let's go down by 80, there we are. And then if we go down again, there we are, you will see it, it will recognize this. So this is very important. So all what we need to do here is filter, we copy this, put it in there. Alright, so this is the 90, but now the 90 is dynamic by this. Save that, refresh. Let's go down here, let's say filter by 60 only. You can see now, this is 60, Lily was 60, but if you go down to 30, then we have James and Santiago as well. Reset it, alright, go back here. Let's put another one, let's say here, let's make Sandra 0. Save that again. Reset. Filter. There we are. Let's go here back to 30. Filter. Alright. And then if I do reset, now you see Sandra as well. Alright. So this is basically how you want to do it. And the request was as well. If I filter, there should be here tooltip. And there you are. Tooltip, it shows it as well. So this is basically how to do it. There's another way as well, of course, what you can do is with data structures. I have another video about that. What I highly recommend you to do is how to create a drop down here with data structures. This is a different way because sometimes you don't have only these data, but you have them in a data structure. So for that, I would recommend you to study this one here, might help you as well.